strategic agent interaction with SIM, with SOAR platforms, with EDR and XDR, identity management, right? It's enabling all of this enhancement for threat detection and response capabilities. But what about accountability? Who's responsible when these systems make independent decisions? As particularly in a world where responsibility over the decisions are becoming increasingly relevant, right? And it's a cycle. As we adopt more tools, we care more about accountability. As we care more about accountability, we're adopting tools which tell us about accountability, and away we go. Keitron, when your SIM or your SOAR is independently making a decision, who owns the outcome?
Well, I mean, I think it's always going to be the business, right? And today that mostly means CISO or CIO or somebody sitting in that seat, and how you manage it this is where they have to be absolutely keenly focused on having proper AI adoption strategy when they adopt AI into their security workflows and things like that, to where that accountability and that responsibility matrix is mapped out. And that's some of the biggest flaws I've seen with people bringing AI into their security infrastructure and their security processes, is not thinking about a strategy and not thinking that through, to where an incident happens and now the ownership of a decision that was made is somewhere buried into some AI algorithm somewhere, and nobody knows how it got made. So I think that's where the leaders in the security organizations have to be very, very focused on making sure they have a proper strategy for when they adopt or when they bring in AI-driven products, and how they're going to map that responsibility matrix, because that is becoming a bigger and bigger concern. It's almost the same as what happened when we first all went to cloud, right? Like, we saw billions of dollars of savings. Let's move all our stuff to cloud. And then like incidents started happening, and it's like, well, wait a minute, is that Amazon's fault or Microsoft's fault, or is it ours? Where's layer 2 exactly start? Like like we were struggling to understand the technology because we adopted it wholeheartedly before we understood it. And I think we need to make sure that at a leadership level, there's clear strategy with the adoption of AI into our security processes so that we can map those things out.
So, Michael, if I may interject, I fully agree with Keitron that definitely is going to be a matter of, of having in place the right strategy, having in place the right governance structure. There are, though, in my opinion, some clear technical limitations at this point. Because when we talk about accountability, as Keitron said, then we need to refer back to who is responsible for what. And in order to identify who is responsible for what, you need to have a clear understanding on the distribution of the actions that are assigned. At this point, I don't think we have the identity and access management approach that we have used forever. I'm not sure that is going to scale properly for the agentic AI case. The level of complexity and the fact that we are in presence of potentially autonomous actions of which we can lose control of, it poses certainly questions about how we shall revisit that approach on identity and access management. First of all, what is the identity of an agent to start with? And how are we going to deal with some agents that are going to be as ephemeral as a cloud workload in certain cases? So there are, in my opinion, very hard questions that are still open out there, which it doesn't mean that we shall not using or implementing agents, but we should be very cautious in the way we are gradually implementing them in our organization. And perhaps the main point I want to make here is that the need of that step-by-step approach. Moving into an approach of agentic AI and going fully autonomous, to me, is foolish. There is a need to get your team and your organization adapted to the new reality in a way that you can slowly understand what are the possible limitations, what are the additional risks that inevitably we're going to be facing by adopting such an incredible technology, which nevertheless has some attached risk to it.
Definitely, Danielle and Keitron, I totally agree with what you're saying. I will just put a small little but in that statement, in the sense that there are some very pragmatic types of things that organizations can do now just from a QA standpoint. regardless of kind of, looking at the output or, whether it's signature based or whether it's more assessment based type of research or outputs that are created. Because I don't think where we want to be as a society or even as, operators is kind of this bureaucratic approach where security becomes kind of the department of no, right? Every business is getting downward pressure to adopt AI. Security is typically an overhead function, and almost every organization needs to be able to demonstrate kind of in a business sense how they're leveraging it to be more effective and efficient. So the only caution that I will add is, being able to demonstrate, at least in small pockets, areas where they're leveraging AI effectively, for certain type of use cases. And the accountability is really on kind of the CISO, yes, but I think the offset and as far as the efficiency gains across, some of these disparate use cases makes some of that risk very worthwhile.
Greg, are we building a security ecosystem or an AI decision hive that we can't fully oversee?
Yeah, so my vote is security ecosystem. I think we have to figure out how to oversee it. I don't think we have a choice. As I said earlier, the threat actors have these tools and are effective at collaborating and using them. We've got to be as good or better than them. So I think we have to figure it out. That's why we're having these conversations like this. It's why we need to keep having these conversations. We need to keep sharing what we learn as we learn these things independently. We need to keep talking.